Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Something About Nothing podcast. Think the Seinfeld show meets your favorite morning show. It's a few regular folks from outside Seattle, Washington, talking around the table about sports, the news of the day, and the absurdity of life. Something About Nothing is an entertaining variety show that covers all the stuff you want to talk about but aren't supposed to. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify. Check it out today. Just search SOMETHIN about NOTHIN. You won't believe how fun listening to a show about nothing can be. This turned out to be one of my favorite episodes. A great conversation with Mike Harvey from Badfish SUP. You can feel his love and enthusiasm for whitewater as Mike tells us how he got hooked on paddling, began building whitewater parks, and started Badfish SUP. Enjoy. Mike, welcome to the show.
Rick, thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to catch up with you. How's it going there in Colorado this morning?
Oh, it's going great. Yeah, it's a Monday morning, so this is a great way to stall out and not stare down the barrel of all the stuff I need to be doing.
A little Eddie out opportunity. That's cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Good. So let's start with where your passion for the outdoors comes from.
Sure. Well, I live in Salida, Colorado, in the upper Arkansas River Valley. I've lived here actually since I was 18 years old, so 25 years or so.
Good for you.
And I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. And I grew up in a family that was really passionate about fly fishing, my dad and my grandparents. And so most of my first experiences in the outdoors were, via fishing. And particularly on my grandparents had sort of like a farm type property in southwestern Pennsylvania. And so we crawl around there and fish and crawl around in the woods. But
nice. What'd you fish for? What was the
everything? Everything. But it was sort of like my dad and my grandfather would go fish in the trout stream, and leave the kids at home. And my grandmother actually taught me to cast a fly rod in the back in the yard. And then my grandmother and I would go fish for like bluegill and, farm pond stuff.
Yeah.
So, actually like my grandmother really got me out there. She was awesome. She'd get right down in the dirt with me and
cool.
Yeah. And
so how old did you have to be before you got to go with granddad and dad?
Yeah.
What was the rite of passage there?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but more self-sufficient, not needing apple juice every 20 minutes or something, right. I'm not sure what test I had to pass, but yeah.
Right.
And then, both my parents' siblings, and all my cousins, live in Colorado. And, so from a pretty young age, I started going out and staying with my aunts and uncles and skiing and chasing my cousins around. I had cousins older than me that were members of the U.S. ski team in the 80s and just incredible skiers. And so they were kind of heroes to me, twin girls who were just ripping skiers and then cousins about my age, just a tiny bit younger on my other side of my family that were, also really into ski racing. And so, I spent a lot of time in Colorado as a kid and just fell in love with Colorado and knew from a pretty young age that this is where I wanted to be.
And what was the connection to rivers? Obviously, you got a little bit of taste of that when you were little fishing, but how about whitewater and all that? How'd that come about?
Yeah, so I didn't grow up with a connection to paddling at all.
Right.
Rivers were places we fished, but when I was 18 years old, I was finishing high school, and this teacher that I had, who was really a mentor, really kind of helped me get through high school. He was working at the time as a raft guide in the summers on the Arkansas River, and he knew that I wanted to move out to Colorado, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come out with me, and we'll get you a job as a raft guide at the place I work." And I didn't, I really knew nothing about what that meant, but it sounded good. So I came out 6 days after I graduated high school. I just drove out here and basically fell, instantly in love. I mean,
it hooks you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. And it wasn't just the activity, although like I started kayaking about a week after I moved here and just, got really excited about whitewater paddling.
Yeah.
But it was also that, I made a connection to these people and this community that I didn't, really know existed, and at that age, all of a sudden you see, wow, there's these people that like, they ski patrol in the winter and they, and they run rivers in the summer and they have all these stories, these places they go. They've been to Costa Rica and, and all these places I'd never really imagined that you could do this. And I mean, it was not very long into that experience that it was pretty clear to me that some version of this was what I was going to do for my whole life. I mean, which I don't know it. I mean, now I think about it, I'm like, well, you don't know anything at 18, but
it's funny though. I had a similar experience, and it's just something about the river. I don't know if it's the people or the whitewater or the camaraderie that you build, but man, it just sucks. It was the best. It's the best job I've ever had.
Right. Yeah, no, it was the greatest summer of my life in a lot of ways. And you're right. It is. It's a communal thing, and when you're guiding rafts, you basically that's what, you just hang out with a lot of other dirt bags after hours. And,
that's right.
And it's, it was just a giant, awakening experience for me. I'm so thankful that this teacher, Jeff, gave me this opportunity because it really did kind of set the trajectory of the rest of my life.
And what'd you do in the winters where you're guided in the summers? Ski?
Well, so I went to college, or I made a good attempt at it there initially. And then I took some time off and I did ski and really was just trying to figure out a way to kayak as much as possible. I was really getting excited about kayaking. I ended up going back to college at Prescott College in Northern Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And because it seemed like a place that I could potentially get college credit for kayaking, which I did.
Yeah, nice.
Managed to do. Yeah. I remember my dad's quote at my graduation was we sat down for dinner the night before my graduation. He looked over at me and said, "So I just want to be clear, you got a degree in camping?" And
I had another similar experience. This is funny. I dropped that. I originally went to college to be an architect.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Didn't, had to take GE courses and flunked out and went back and found out that I could get an outdoor recreation degree. And the day I told my dad that around the dinner table, I thought I was going to be kicked out of the family.
Right. Yeah, it was like, but it was the only way I was getting a degree, probably similar to you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So did your dad come around? Did he, obviously he fished, so he knew about outdoor recreation.
Oh yeah, I think he was just ribbing me a little bit, yeah, but right. And I actually two of my friends and I bought a little raft company while I was in college.
Oh, cool.
And we operated this little raft company, like shoestring budget kind of raft company on the Arkansas for 3 summers. So that was kind of my first experience with running a business too, and it was painful in a lot of ways because we just worked all the time and really didn't make any money. But then that's sort of what running a business is a lot of times. So
yeah, exactly. And so And how did you get into designing whitewater parks?
Well, so when I got out of college, we sold the raft company, and my wife or soon to be wife and I decided that we would settle in Salida because really at the time, this is late 90s, Salida was, kind of the last undiscovered, really cool, authentic mountain town in Colorado, if I could be so bold as to make that statement. But I think it was, it was coming out of kind of a long economic downturn because Salida is really historically a railroad town and was strongly dependent also on the mining activities up in Leadville, and the railroad has sort of pulled out in the 1960s in any significant way,
right?
And finally ceased operations altogether in the mid 90s. And so Salida was an artist community and kind of some river people that hung on, and then the older families that had been here during the the more, boom type times, or if you could even say it was ever a boom here.
And they probably all had small businesses. They really didn't either work for the railroad or had an independent grocery store or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just small towns, 5,000 people. But if super cool place. It's got the state's largest historic business district. We've got this, the railroad built all these brick buildings, and we've got a really iconic historic downtown, and cool. Arkansas runs right through the heart of it. And, you've got the banana belt weather here where we're in the rain shadow. And so it's dry and sunny in the valley, ride bikes and hike and whatever, but also drive 20 minutes up to Ski Powder. And so, I was sort of like, boy, this seems like a place
heaven.
You could, it seems like a good place to live.
Yeah.
So we settled here, and again, I was just really focused on whitewater kayaking and especially at that time, freestyle kayaking. So playing in holes and waves, which was kind of the big steep climb, of the whitewater kayaking industry happened from the early 90s through the sort of early to mid 2000s, kind of rode the back of this playboating revolution, drove a lot of the kayak design. And so I was kind of, coming of age and through my peak paddling years at that same time. So my paddling kind of matched that. I was really, really into playboating. And so, what I figured out right away was if I was going to, be married and have, this quasi domesticated existence, that I needed access to a place to go kayaking, for like 40 minutes whenever I could squeeze it in. And that would be in downtown Salida. And, in downtown Salida, Salida hosts we have the nation's oldest continuously running whitewater festival, the Fib Arc Festival in June. Okay. It's been running every year since 1949.
Wow, cool.
And so there is a history of people kind of pushing rocks around in the river in Salida to create whitewater, but it was always kind of ad hoc, and the river corridor in downtown Salida was pretty impacted by the historic activities of the railroad and the downtown business district. So, in the Arkansas, you have roughly 80 miles of just world-class whitewater, both upstream and downstream Salida. Salida sits roughly in the middle of that valley.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, but in downtown Salida, you had, chain link fences cutting people off from the river. You had dumped concrete riprap and rebar and stuff on the banks, and really just an uninviting river corridor. I was just to say it was sort of like the river was running through the backyard of Salida. It wasn't like we weren't really paying attention to the fact that it was right there. Yeah. In fact, we have this big park, Riverside Park. It's the oldest park in Salida, right along the river. It's called Riverside Park, and there was a 3-foot maybe high concrete wall running down the top of the bank the whole way. Yeah. So the river was there theoretically, but it
no
was
access
behind the wall.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I started with this idea that, we were pretty much just selfishly thinking that, I just want a place to go surf my kayak, and lunch. Yeah. And, but then, as I, started kind of asking questions and trying to figure out, well, what would that take? What would it take to build, a hole in downtown Salida? Kind of started to get a sense of, the potential for this to be more than just a recreational thing. It's like, well, I started to see the river differently, like the way I was just describing. Like, it's really not connected to our downtown. And could we do this? Could this whitewater park
could
project
be a central part of Salida? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Could it be part of this, making a connection to the river corridor and have all these other positive impacts? And so I stumbled through about a year of planning with some friends who were helping me. We started a little nonprofit organization called the Arkansas River Trust. We managed to, somehow get a federal permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, which nice. Were I sitting in their shoes, I would not have granted me permission to do anything. But right. We managed to get a permit, and we got a really amazing guy by the name of Fred Lowry, who was a born and raised Salida local contractor who had run all over the West doing all kinds of projects. He put the first high-speed quad lift in at Sun Valley, for example, and
wow.
But he'd been born right here in the railroad hospital, and he met up with me one morning, and I talked him through this project I wanted to do, and just at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Look, we'll give you all the rock you need and all the equipment time. Let's do it."
Cool.
And so I was like, "Yeah, this is amazing." We got no money.
What? Wait, what?
But then yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened. He pulled this excavator in, which I hadn't grown up around construction equipment like a 300 series excavator. So when I saw that thing, I was like, "Good God!" It was looked like a dinosaur.
What are we gonna do to this river?
That's right. That's exactly what happened. A pile of rocks sitting there, a giant excavator, and I just freaked out.
Right.
I was like, I can't believe that I'm actually thinking I'm going to go into this river and throw rocks around, and which was really like a pretty wise instinct, as it turned out. So I found a contact for a guy by the name of Gary Lacey, Gary's an engineer from Boulder, Colorado, who is really kind of the innovator of whitewater parks in the U.S. And in 1996, he did what's kind of considered the first real public, city, municipally funded public whitewater park in the country, in Clear Creek in Golden.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
And anyone that was into whitewater kayaking knew about it, because it was like, this is not something new and cool and different. And so I got his number from somewhere, and I gave him a call, and basically, as he describes, he said, he left this message. He kept listening for key phrases, where it's like, oh, this guy has a permit. What? Wait, he's got rock.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, they're starting next week. And so, to his credit, he called me back and said, "Hey, look, I'll be up there."
Cool. Yeah, great.
And Gary had a connection to Salida. His father was a pioneering Colorado whitewater paddler who raced in fib arc races in the 50s. And
wow.
Gary had been coming up there since a kid, and then he started racing the fib arc downriver race in the 70s, and actually was a 6-time winner.
Wow.
And so he was willing to help me, and so he actually stood out there with me and helped me understand some of the concepts, and then he actually went on vacation to Belize with his family like 3 days later. So
here you go, kid. Here's what you need to know. See you later.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "My name's not on this. Best of luck to you." Right. Yeah.
That's
so
great.
I built this one feature, which and much worked, and then kind of fell apart within a couple of seasons. Mm-hmm. But it got us going, and so we started this process. This is right around 2000.
Wow,
we started
great.
this process, and we started raising money and writing grants and really kind of being serious about it. And by 2003, we'd gotten a Great Outdoors Colorado grant through the lottery funds. And we did a pretty transformative project that included Riverside Park and included a ton of bank improvements and just tons and tons of hauled debris and concrete out of the channel, and really, created a river walk along the river and made this connection to the downtown business district. And I think, that's when the community started to see the potential that this project, and so in Salida here has always kind of been this learning place for me, and this place where I can do this project in my own community. And then Gary offered me the opportunity to start working with him on other projects. And so I just started kind of getting, this almost like an old school apprenticeship.
I was going to say,
Gary.
you hacked your way into a master's degree through apprenticing and making it up. That's awesome.
That's right. So, it's a really interesting, we probably should have said this earlier, but whitewater parks, basically, I would describe them as, projects that are include in-stream improvements. So structures built under the water, out of oftentimes out of rock and concrete. And then also bank improvements in urban settings or impacted sections of rivers that create whitewater paddling, yes, but also create connectivity to the river. So people coming down to hang out, eat their lunch there.
They can enjoy the river. Yeah.
Kids tubing, in the warm months, and people fishing, and just making connections to rivers.
And how long did you do that? That's great. How many parks? I mean, did you go all around the West?
Yeah, so I'm still doing it.
Okay, cool.
This is so like I'm leaving this afternoon to go back to a project I built in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, cool.
It was a 7-year project to modify a low-head dam into a whitewater park, and that's what most of our projects these days are modification of existing low-head dams for both safety and navigation. And so you turn basically a horrendous safety hazard into an amenity for a community, a recreational amenity. It's pretty neat.
That's beautiful.
Neat process to see. Yeah. And so we're doing it all over the place. We just started a project in New Hampshire, which will be the first whitewater park in New England. And we've worked in, Iowa, Ohio.
And do you do that through your company, Badfish SUP, or there's a different company?
I don't know. This is through an engineering firm founded by Gary called Recreation Engineering and Planning. Gotcha. And our website is boaterparks.com.
Oh, cool.
And so Badfish kind of grew out of working on these projects, specifically a project we did in the mid 2000s in Pueblo, Colorado, where at the time we were, you kind of had two halves to designing a whitewater park. Yet the part that most of the public interfaces with is the bank improvements and the revegetation and also the restoration and park design type of elements. But then, of course, our core constituencies are these whitewater paddlers and kayakers, and so we're trying to design features that are appealing to whitewater kayakers. And so we were just thinking about, that's what I was really into whitewater kayaking. So we're thinking about making whitewater kayaking features, but we built this park in Pueblo, and, I came down after we'd finished the park over the winter, and the water came up pretty high, and there was this big green wave out there, and there was a surfer on it. Oh. And this guy was trying to surf, and I was sort of aware that people did that. I'd heard about it at lunch counter up on the Snake and the big sur waving on the Colorado River when it came in. Yeah. But I had never really seen anybody doing it or been, exposed to it. It wasn't really like a thing at that point. And so I called my buddy Zach, who was one of my kayaking buddies and one of my best friends, and he grew up in San Diego, but was living in Salida and was a whitewater guy too. And I knew he'd grown up surfing. And I was like, man, dude, these guys are surfing this wave that I built in Pueblo. Like, I know you have surfboards in your garage. We should come down here one day and try this, And so we did. We grabbed all the boards out of his garage. We drove down there, and we went surfing. Well, actually, Zach went surfing. I just swam a whole lot. Was how it really went.
Yeah.
Zach
a little more experience.
Surfing, yeah. I was just flailing.
Right.
And I swam more in that day than I had in the previous 15 years of whitewater kayaking all over the world.
I'm sure.
But and Zach's just one of these guys that's got a real kind of design mind, and he. We used to we'd go kayaking somewhere, be sitting around having a beer afterwards, and he'd be instantly redesigning his seat in his boat, or he'd be talking about how this could be better or that could be better. Yeah. So almost immediately, he was like, man, these boards aren't right. They're just not right for what we're doing here, and he's like, I think I could figure out, a way to make better boards. And so he started just in his garage. He lived a block away from me. He started shaping boards out of, actually had a blue board foam, home insulation. Oh, wow. And he's learning on YouTube, basically watching YouTube videos and making these kind of mutant fish shapes that he had grown up riding in San Diego as a kid, in the 80s as a kid. Okay. And so, that's where the name came from. They were badfish. They were mutant fish boards. Yeah. So he's making these little short boards, and Zach's an incredible athlete and a surfer, and he can ride them, but almost no one else can. They're
you're still swimming. He's surfing. You're still swimming.
I almost given up. I was I don't really think I can do this. And then around that time, a friend of mine, Earl, who owned at the time Colorado Kayak Supply, had brought the first stand-up paddleboard into the valley. This is 2007-ish, and stand-up paddling is just kind of becoming a thing. And he brings back an inflatable stand-up paddleboard, and he's like, dude, you got to try this. It's so cool. It's going to be so cool on the river. And I went out and, and again, just swam and flailed, but it made more sense to me, right? Because I'm a kayaker.
Yeah.
And I had a paddle in my hand. So all of a sudden now it's like, okay, my legs have been atrophying inside a kayak for, almost 20 years. But still, like, I could do this. I know what I should be doing if I could just figure it out.
Yeah.
And so something clicked for me. And I was like, if we took what Zach's figuring out with these little short, fat, weird surfboards, and we made it into a bigger platform that was you could stand up on with a paddle, I might be able to surf, because if I'm already on my feet, it's just kayaking on my feet. Like,
sure.
I could go.
You knew the paddle part and the reading the water and all that, right?
Yeah. I was like, maybe this would work. And so I asked him that winter, I said, hey, I'll give you some money. At this time, he was kind of like, he was going to California and getting blanks and really surfing or shaping surfboards. And so I was like, look, could you make me one? Just take what you've been doing with these surfboards and make me one that's big enough that you think I'll be able to stand on it in the eddy, paddle out of the eddy and onto the wave. And if I could do that, I can surf.
Right.
And he made me this board over the winter. And at the same time, we were doing another phase of the Whitewater Park in Salida, and we were going to build 2 new features. And so I was like, I'm going to try to make these features something that I can ride this new board on.
Yeah, build a surf wave. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, build a surf wave. And so, it was kind of like going to be our little design lab. And so we built these 2 features, and Zach built this board, and we finished the features in April, and Zach had finished the board, and I took the board down to the new wave, and I paddled out of the eddy just like I had envisioned that I would be able to do. And I stood there and I just stood straight up, surfing for like 15 minutes.
Nice. Right.
I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was so cool. It was such a new perspective. I was standing 6+ feet over the water and seeing things in a new way. And it was just amazing, and so I came back over to the shore, and I picked up my phone and I called Zach, and I was like, dude, this was incredible. Other people are going to want these. Like, we should start a business. We should build these boards.
Yeah.
And this is 2009 spring of 2010 actually. And I had no real idea what that meant saying those words at that time, but
figure it out.
But yeah. So we did. So we created a business. Badfish SUP, and we all we had was this one board, or we had a couple at that point. There was a river surfing stand-up paddleboard, which is like taking, let's take a really small niche and then let's see if we can't find an even smaller niche inside that,
Yeah, but that's cool. That's, very unique, and you guys were probably the only guys doing that then, right?
Well, we were, and it was funny because we thought, like, in that first year or two, we thought, oh my God, everybody's going to rip us off. We're so paranoid, And then no one did initially. And we're like, well, wait, is that a good or bad? Like, if this was a good idea, wouldn't people be ripping us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. Yeah. That'd be a good problem to have. Yeah.
Yeah. But so we basically just started, and we expanded almost right away. We were like, well, okay, this is cool. And river surfing is what we're really excited about. And other people instantly were interested because, the appeal of being a surfer, 7,000 feet above sea level is just like undeniable.
And I think, surfing at the ocean, it all pushes you towards the beach generally. There's undercurrents and riptides and things like that, but generally it all pushes you towards the beach. When you get in a river, you look downstream, there's this unknown of, oh my God, if I fall, where am I going to go? So that might be, that'd be off-putting to some people.
Yeah, well, maybe, but yeah, you're right. It is, but it was also really appealing to people because, well, one is it's like a surfing treadmill, right?
Sure. So right. Yeah, exactly. Right.
You'd have to go on a 10-day trip to get as many hacks in as you can, and 3 rides on the river. It's ridiculous. You can just completely blow your legs out in 20 minutes. But also, I think just people surfing. We know this. Our culture is like very how much influence has surfing had on our culture? It's tremendous.
Yeah, and in ways that don't involve surfing too. Music to buses to all kinds of stuff.
That's right. Yeah. And so, right away we were making connections with people that were also interested in river surfing, and it was really cool. And so we tried to figure out, well, we're like, well, if this is a business, we have to make these boards somehow. And it was pretty clear to us that trying to like commercially produce surfboards in Salida, Colorado was, close to impossible.
It's just challenges, I'm sure.
Yeah, it had some challenges. I mean, it was expensive to get materials here, and and Zach can't shape every single board, and and how do we make money doing it? And so we actually got introduced to a company called Boardworks Surf that at the time was based in Encinitas, California.
Oh, cool.
And they had kind of a model where they would, license the name of a shaper somewhere, and they would sort of produce boards for them under their name with their designs.
Oh, cool.
But they would do all the sales and distribution, then they would pay that person a royalty. So for example, Rusty's a famous surf brand and, surf name in California, Southern California, La Jolla. And Rusty had a line of stand-up paddle boards with this company Boardworks that were licensed. And so they were like, hey,
that's
we
awesome.
We went out and met with them, and it seemed like they told, the answer to our prayers was like, well, these guys know this business. They know how to do this. They've got a sales network. They've got a team. They've got, warehouses. This stuff comes in from Asia and is warehoused right there in California and can ship anywhere. And so all we have to do is all the really cool parts of this business. We'll just, we'll just design boards, and we'll just market, and we'll brand, and we'll do all the things we can do because we're just passionate about this.
Yeah.
And these guys can do all the rest. And so we did. We signed a contract with these guys, and by 2012 we were producing boards with Boardworks, and so the good part of that arrangement was that we had a brand. We had a brand, and we were in business, and we were in stores all over the place, and instantly we were. I mean, it was almost kind of hard to believe we were just making connections with people, that were so fired up that, for example, these guys on the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., it was like they had just been waiting for this board,
Right.
And now all of a sudden they were out surfing these little waves that were almost just like the waves we had designed these boards on, but they were in Washington, D.C. And, that first summer they started calling themselves the Potomac Badfish Crew, the PBC. And
nice.
It was like, what? These guys, look at these guys on the internet, or the PBC. And,
right.
And so it was really cool in that sense that we were, making connections with other communities and seeing, this is a brand new activity, and seeing other people, you love it as much as we did. And we didn't really know if that was going to happen. We didn't know if we were just way out on a limb here, or if other people would be into this.
Right.
And so it did. And so it started to grow. And,
that's very cool.
So the culture side of it was awesome. I mean,
I was gonna say, what are you most proud of all that? I mean, there's all that you overcame, all the challenges. They had some dominoes line up, which is always fortuitous. I think that happens in every business. But you guys did a lot of, groundwork and legwork to make it happen. What are you most proud of at this point?
Well, yeah. So I mean, my we're still on the path for sure. So I hope I'm proud of some new things in 3 or 4 more years.
Oh yeah, those things will change. Exactly. Yeah,
totally. But.
Yeah.
So it turned out really that that licensing deal wasn't really a sustainable business model. So we're actually doing it all ourselves now.
Oh, cool.
And we do all our sales and distribution out of Salida now, which has been awesome. And 50 times more work, but also 50 times
making
more
jobs in Salida.
Rewarding.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And then, but really for me in Whitewater parks and Badfish are similar in this way where, without question, the coolest part of it for me is the connection I get to make to other people that are passionate about paddling, about rivers, about being on the water. I mean, the stand-up paddleboarding things, even, I've even made a ton of connections to people, who live in coastal communities and I've been able to explore the ocean over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. And so
cool.
To me, it's like the connections of those people is the coolest part of the whole thing.
That's cool,
and just, being along for the ride with them and seeing people, learn to surf. I mean, my son is 16 and he learned to surf on the Arkansas River. And,
that's great.
Now, we just went on a surf trip to Mexico. You can surf anywhere now.
Exactly.
And it's like, what a crazy thing that I just really couldn't have imagined being a part of. And so that's been just really, really cool.
Yeah. You were part of the growth of that community. That's fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been neat but it's been neat because of the other people, the people that I've made a connection to. And so, I'm proud of that. And, in the business side is, something that, to be honest, we just really didn't know what we were getting into, and maybe no one could have, known what they were getting into, but we've hung in there, and, we're, set up, I think, for a bigger season than we've ever had.
Correct.
And so I'm hopeful that, that the business part of it also will come along with kind of all the cool, core kind of culture type things that have happened.
Sure.
It would be nice too if it once maybe made some money too.
That's always nice. Yep.
So not a lot, but
right.
just enough to keep justifying it to my wife.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah. So, do you guys work with any nonprofits through the business?
Yeah. So, basically, the Salida Whitewater Park and development of, so we went from that one feature to 4 features, a slalom course, trails, a mile or so of trail,
oh, cool.
Bank restoration, all this stuff. So that thing has been like a 20-year nonprofit project for me. So for example, this winter, I just volunteered my time and energy to get a project done where we actually built like this pretty interesting kids play area on a creek that flows into the Arkansas right in the park.
Nice.
So we kind of made like a cool little waiting area and a place where moms and dads can hang out and drink coffee while their kids splash in the summer.
Right.
And
so have you guys established a nonprofit group to kind of oversee that and maintain it and make sure it lives on forever?
Yeah. So the same nonprofit that we started to, almost 20 years ago, the Arkansas River Trust is still the vehicle we use to do that work. And so, for me, that's kind of the way that I just continue to really feel like I can give back in that way to my community. And I think it's made a lot of a big impact on our downtown business district in our community.
But it has. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
But it's awesome. Really just fun. It's just fun for me.
Well, that's the best way, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons we're all in this industry, because we are passionate about it, but it's also pretty damn fun. So
yeah, that's a fact. That is a fact.
What other outdoor activities do you participate in?
So paddle sports is my passion for sure. I like to I like to paddle. I like to change it up all the time. So I have like 14-foot composite racing kayaks. I paddle down the river. I paddle stand-up paddleboards down the river. I like to paddle plastic kayaks. I like to do raft trips with my family and multi-day trips. And I just love being on the water, and I love surfing in the ocean. I love paddling in the ocean. Downwind paddling in the ocean is for me, the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. And if I'm going to find some way at some point in my life to just be somewhere where I can just do downwinders almost every day. But I do like to ride mountain bikes. I do like to ski. We do quite a bit of skiing. I like skiing too, because I have 2 kids, 14 and 16 years old. And I like the fact that when we go skiing, we all go together to one place and do one thing, where
that's cool.
A lot of the rest of the year, everybody's shooting a different direction all the time. So I like to ski, but I'm basically happiest, a little bit sunburnt and a little bit wet
on the water. I love
barefoot.
It. I love it. Cool.
Yeah.
And so you've gone through a lot just to start your business and get this whole thing off the ground. Do you have any suggestions or advice for people wanting to get into the outdoor biz or grow their career if they're already in it?
First off, if anybody has any advice for me, please email me, Mike at badfishsup.com.
There you go.
But
we'll link to that.
yeah. I honestly don't know if I don't feel qualified to give advice. I would say that, most people in this industry, once you've decided to work in this industry, you probably decided because you're passionate about the outdoors. And so you've kind of already made the only choice you need to make,
Perfect.
which is like, you know what, I'm going to do this because this is what I love, and we'll figure the rest of it out.
I love it.
And,
that's great.
Yeah.
And I think you're a testimonial to perseverance. I mean, it's one thing to find your passion, but you've just, made it work over the years, and now it's awesome. You've done so many things outside of just, your business. You've built parks. You've helped so many other people. That's fabulous. Yeah, good job.
Thanks. Well, I feel lucky for sure.
How about books? Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts?
Yeah. I've never given a book as a gift, but I'll ruin the surprise for the next person I give a book to. And tell them, I mean, the two books that no, that's not true. I did give this one book as a gift once, but I really like, the two books that I go back to the most as an adult are, Big Bang by Simon Singh, which is, it's kind of a really readable history of the universe.
Cool.
And so basically, the Big Bang, and then, the origin of the Big Bang, and then our discovery of the Big Bang theory. And along the way, he walks you through like everything from, Einstein to quantum physics to Newtonian physics. And I found it super interesting, and it's really readable. And cool. It's kind of like helps me when I'm freaking out about some little issue to realize that, it actually really, really doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're just
Truly,
a small
it doesn't
part.
Matter. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's great.
The other book I really like and read, go back to all the time is Wherever You Go, There You Are.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And I forget the author's name, but
I can look it up.
It's sort of like a guidebook to mindfulness, and in a really, again, just short compartments of just awesome insight. And so for me, I can read, I can open it up in the evenings or whatever, and read like 5 pages and be reminded of something. Or so cool. Those two books are really meaningful for me.
We'll link to that. Yeah. How about a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100? Yeah.
Okay. So without a doubt, the one that I use the most is my hydro flask, a stainless steel water bottle, which is like, been everywhere with me and dented, and like everybody, right? Everybody has a favorite water bottle that you're rationally attached to. And I've tried to leave it all over the world, like walked out of meetings and leave it on the table all the time. But somehow it always gets back to me. But nice. I do want to give a shout out to this red webbing belt that I bought from Topo Designs, which is a really cool company based in Denver, Colorado, that makes like backpacks and stuff. And what I really like about their stuff, I mean, it's made in Colorado. It's really cool from that standpoint. But what I really like about Topo Designs is it's super evocative of that like era of outdoor gear in the 80s, right. That when I first got into it. So like colorful North Face stuff, or like low alpine packs, or original Mountain Smith stuff. And so it's just this red webbing belt, but it looks like you could have bought it in 1987.
We'll link to that too. Yeah, they're a great company. Cool. I love seeing them at OR every year.
Yeah, awesome company.
Anything else you'd like to say to our audience or ask of our audience before we wrap up?
I would ask that if you have an aunt who has a lake house in upstate New York or somewhere, turn them on to a Badfish stand-up paddleboard.
There you go. Cool.
And no, thank you for being interested. And
no, it's a great story. Yeah, I'm glad we connected. Yeah, it's awesome.
Thanks for doing this podcast. It's really fun to listen to and fun to hear other people's stories of. It's heartening to hear other people's work in this industry.
Yeah, we've all come from different places and hacked our way into a career, so it's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's been great catching up with you. Would you be at Summer Outdoor Show? Yeah.
So we won't be. I may be there speaking on a panel actually, but
cool.
We're now attending the Paddle Sports Retailer Show, which is in Oklahoma City. So no sooner did the show move 3 hours from my house did we decide to go to a different show in Oklahoma City. But I'll be down there milling around a little bit.
Great. Well, we'll grab a beer.
I'll look forward to it, Rick. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Great to have you on.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mike Harvey. You can catch up with Mike by email at mike@badfishsup.com. badfishsup.com. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode 99. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.